This is Inner Motion, a channel for those who've stopped lying to themselves. For those who feel the weakness and are ready to destroy it. For those who know that comfort is the enemy and pain is the price. You're not here for hype. You're here for a rebirth. You're not here to feel better. You're here to become someone you respect. So, let's begin with the truth. The world doesn't need another soft man. It doesn't need another boy in a grown man's body, scrolling through life, chasing pleasure, avoiding responsibility, blaming his parents, blaming his ex, blaming everything but himself. It doesn't need another man who folds when it's hard, who runs the second it gets uncomfortable, who talks big but lives small. It needs men who've been broken but chose to rise, men who suffered but didn't escape, men who looked in the mirror, hated what they saw, and did something about it. And if you're watching this, it means there's a part of you that's ready to bury the boy, ready to stop making excuses, ready to step into the fire and walk out forged. Because, deep down, you know who you've been isn't enough. Not for the dreams you say you want, not for the legacy you pretend you're building, not for the woman you claim you're looking for, not for the family you'll someday lead. You're still soft, still addicted, still folding, still fantasizing about the man you could be, while living like the boy you were. And that disconnect, that gap between who you are and who you know you could be, that's why you're angry, that's why you're ashamed, that's why you feel like a fraud. Because your soul knows the truth. You weren't born to be passive. You weren't born to consume. You weren't born to escape. You were born to build, to lead, to fight, to dominate your weakness and rise. But before that can happen, the boy inside you has to die. The version of you that runs, the version that hides, the version that begs for comfort instead of choosing discipline. That's the version that has to be killed, and this video is your weapon. We're going to kill the boy, not with hate, but with responsibility, not with fear, but with fire. And in his place, we will build the man, a man of honor, a man of focus, a man of power, a man you finally respect. So sit with this, let it sink in. You're not here for entertainment. You're here for war, and the enemy is inside you. You keep waiting to feel ready, waiting for motivation, waiting for the stars to align, waiting for a sign, waiting for tomorrow. But motivation is the biggest scam the world ever sold you. It tells you to wait, to feel, to be inspired. It's soft, it's emotional, it's unreliable. And that's exactly why the boy in you clings to it, because it justifies his weakness. It gives him permission to stall. It makes failure feel okay, because he just wasn't feeling it. But the man in you, he knows better. He knows the truth. Motivation is optional. Discipline is not. A man doesn't wait to feel ready. He moves anyway. He shows up anyway. He lifts the weight. He runs the miles. He faces the hard conversation. He does the damn work, even when everything inside him says, not today. Because he understands this. Discipline isn't about how you feel. It's about who you've chosen to become. And every time you act against your feelings, you chip away at the boy and step closer to the man. Every time you ignore the urge to scroll, to snooze, to avoid your forging armor. Because here's what they don't tell you. Discipline hurts. It's boring, it's lonely, it's thankless. But it's the only path to self-respect, and you don't get to become a man you admire without doing things you hate, without saying no when it's easier to say yes, without building consistency in the dark, with no applause, no support, no reward. The boy needs feedback. The boy needs praise. The boy needs to be seen. The man moves in silence. He doesn't need to be seen because he sees himself. He respects his word. He honors his plan. He doesn't need validation to follow through. That's the gap between them, and every choice you make tells you which one is running your life. So don't wait to feel it. Don't wait to believe it. Act first. Belief comes later. You don't become a disciplined man by thinking. You become him by doing, especially when you don't feel like it. That's how you build trust. That's how you build grit. That's how you build a man. They told you life should be easy, that happiness is the goal, that comfort is the reward, that if something feels hard, you're doing it wrong. They lied. Softness is not peace, it's paralysis. It's the silent killer of potential, because every time you choose comfort, You sacrifice growth. You trade strength for short-term ease. You trade vision for momentary relief. You trade who you could become for who you already are. And here's what makes it worse. The world is designed to keep you soft. Everything around you is engineered to numb you, to sedate you, to keep you scrolling, to keep you indulging, to keep you weak. You think you're choosing, but your choices have already been hijacked by dopamine, by distraction, by algorithms that know your habits better than you do. You weren't born soft. You were trained to be. You were trained to run from pain, to avoid discomfort, to treat every negative feeling like a problem instead of a signal. But listen closely. Pain is not the enemy. Discomfort is not the enemy. They are the forge, the sacred fire, the gate to transformation. Every man who built a legacy, every warrior you respect, every leader you admire, they bled, they suffered, they said no to comfort 1,000 times until it became second nature. You cannot scroll your way into greatness. You cannot binge watch your way into discipline. You cannot complain and expect your life to change. You have to get hard, not bitter, but strong. You have to look at the softness in your life and kill it. Kill the excuses. Kill the distractions. Kill the parts of you that always fold, because if you don't, the boy survives, and he will rule your life with quiet fear. You'll get older, but not stronger. You'll age, but never mature, because growth isn't measured in years. It's measured in what you overcome. And every time you say no to the soft path, you say yes to the man you're becoming, the boy you used to be. He wanted to be liked. He wanted to feel good. He wanted everything fast and easy, and now he was reactive, emotional, chasing validation, running from pain. He thought strength was noise. He thought control was dominance. He thought manhood was bravado. But that boy is not who you're called to be, because there comes a time when the boy must die for the man to rise. A boy seeks comfort. A man builds character. A boy escapes challenge. A man endures it and grows. A boy waits for motivation. A man acts with or without it. You can't live your life as both. At some point, you must choose. You have to look in the mirror and ask, who's really running the show? The boy who wants to feel good, or the man who's ready to do what's necessary? Because let me be clear, manhood is not about your age. It's not about your job title. It's not about how much you lift, or what you drive, or who you've slept with. It's about ownership. A man owns his actions. He owns his time. He owns his weakness, and he doesn't negotiate with it. He does what needs to be done, even when no one's watching, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. And here's the truth, that kind of man doesn't happen by accident. He's built, day by day, pain by pain, discipline by discipline. The boy you used to be will beg to stay. He'll whisper, just rest a little longer, just take the easy way today. No one will know, but you'll know, and that's the difference. A man answers to himself. He doesn't need permission. He doesn't need applause. He needs purpose and pain to sharpen him. So today, draw the line. Decide who walks forward, the boy or the man. Every real man, every disciplined man, every respected man has walked through pain, not the pain of failure, but the pain of effort, not the pain of regret, but the pain of self-control, the pain of saying no when every part of you wants to say yes. This is the truth society won't tell you, that real transformation starts with pain. Discipline is pain. Delayed gratification is pain. Building a body, sharpening your mind, controlling your urges, all of it is pain. But it's not suffering without purpose. It's initiation. Pain is the fire that burns off your weakness. It's the test that reveals your character. It's the weight that breaks the boy and forges the man. And the thing about pain is that most people run from it. They flinch. They numb. They find a screen, a snack, a scroll, anything to avoid sitting with discomfort. But that avoidance, that escape, is what kills your potential. Because every time you avoid pain, you avoid growth. You can't cheat this process. You can't shortcut your way into self-respect. You earn it one rep at a time, one cold morning at a time, one denied craving at a time. And it's not glamorous. It's not viral. It's quiet, lonely, brutal. But here's the trade-off. It gives you something no one else can. It gives you power, real power. Not the kind that screams, the kind that stands. A man who has endured his own pain becomes immune to the world's. He doesn't fold when life gets hard, because he's trained for it. And when you embrace pain, when you choose it, you flip the script. You stop being the victim. You stop being the child. You stop being the boy who needs life to be easy, just to show up. Instead, you become the man who gets stronger because it's hard. That's what this pain is for. Not to punish you, but to prepare you. So stop avoiding it. Stop numbing it. Start leaning into it. Because pain is not the enemy, it's the entrance. You weren't born a man, you were born male. But being a man, that's earned. And most never earn it. Because masculinity is not a gift. It's a burden. It's a responsibility. It's a code. And that code has nothing to do with dominance over others. And everything to do with dominance over yourself. The world tells you masculinity is toxic, but weak men are far more dangerous than strong ones. Weak men lie. Weak men manipulate. Weak men betray. Because they don't have the spine to carry truth. The masculine code isn't about pretending to be tough. It's about becoming disciplined enough that your emotions don't dictate your behavior. It's about doing what's right even when it's not easy, especially when it's not easy. The man you respect, he doesn't flinch under pressure. He doesn't fold when things go wrong. He doesn't seek comfort, he seeks clarity. And he acts not when it feels good, but when it's needed. That kind of man doesn't come from books. He's not built in group chats. He's not created in comfort. He's forged in isolation, in rejection, in long stretches of silence where no one claps and you show up anyway. You want to be respected? Then stop trying to be liked. Respect isn't loud. It doesn't post for validation. It doesn't beg for attention. It's quiet, steady, unapologetic. And that's what masculinity is. Not noise, but presence. Not bravado, but ground. Not aggression, but direction. If you want to kill the boy, you need to bury the ego. Because the boy wants to be seen, but the man just wants to see clearly. And once you start living by that code, everything changes. The way you walk, the way you think, the way you carry yourself when nobody's watching. Because that's the test. Who are you when no one sees? Who are you when no one claps? Who are you when the results are slow and the doubts are loud? If you can hold your line, if you can act on principle, if you can be honest when it costs you, then you're not a boy anymore. You're becoming a man, and the world needs more of that. Not softer men, stronger ones. Not obedient men, decisive ones. Not boys with beards, but warriors with restraint. You want masculinity? Earn it, every damn day. The ego is loud. It wants applause. It wants validation. It wants recognition for work it hasn't done yet. And it's the ego that keeps the boy alive. Because the boy doesn't want to be disciplined. He wants to be praised. The boy thinks he's special. He thinks his thoughts are enough. He thinks potential is the same as power. But the man knows none of that matters without action. The man doesn't talk about what he's going to do. He just does it again and again and again until it's undeniable. Discipline is the death of ego, because ego wants comfort. Discipline wants the result. Ego says, you've done enough. Discipline says, we're not done yet. Ego compares. Discipline focuses. Ego fantasizes. Discipline executes. Ego chases applause. Discipline chases mastery. The world is full of boys pretending to be men because they look the part, but crumble when it gets hard. You want to know who the man is? He's the one who keeps showing up. Long after motivation has died, he's the one whose habits are stronger than his feelings. He's the one who trains when nobody's watching and keeps his promises when no one's checking. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not aesthetic. It's not sexy. It's silent, grueling, repetitive. But it's sacred, because in those silent reps, in those early mornings, in those moments when everything in you says quit and you stay anyway, you're not just building a body, you're building a man who can trust himself, a man who can endure pressure, a man who keeps showing up, not because it's fun, but because it's necessary. Discipline is earned in the boring moments, in the lonely moments, In the moments where you want to justify quitting, and instead you recommit, that's where the real shift happens. Not when you feel strong, but when you feel weak and still choose to act strong. Kill the ego, starve it, ignore it. Let it scream for comfort while you lock in, because every time you do, you weaken the boy and strengthen the man. Comfort is the greatest lie you've ever been sold. It whispers, you deserve rest. You've done enough. You don't have to push today. But comfort has a price, and it's always your potential. The boy seeks comfort. The man seeks growth. You think comfort is safety, but it's a cage. A soft, padded prison that slowly erodes your strength, your edge, your will, because every time you avoid the hard thing, you reinforce weaknesses. Every skipped workout, every snoozed alarm, every time you numb yourself with a screen instead of building something real, you teach your nervous system to run from resistance. And here's the truth. Everything you want lives on the other side of that. Resistance. Discipline hurts. Structure feels like restriction. Routine feels like suffocation. But that's only true when your identity is still built on comfort. Once you choose the hard path on purpose, it changes you. It doesn't break you. It remakes you. Hard is the way. It always has been. Not because suffering is holy, but because it strips away what doesn't matter. Comfort makes you soft. Pain sharpens you. Comfort keeps you average. Pain pushes you past your limits. Comfort sedates. Pain awakens. The man is built in discomfort because discomfort reveals who you really are. It exposes the weak voice inside, the one that begs for escape. And the more you confront it, the quieter it gets, until it no longer controls you, until the hard path becomes your normal. You want take the path most people avoid. You want power? Do the thing you've been avoiding every single day. That's where your identity shifts. Not in the fantasy, but in the fire. So stop chasing ease. Start chasing excellence. Because the more resistance you can tolerate, the more freedom you earn. Comfort is the enemy. Hard is the way. Always. People think their small choices don't matter. That skipping one workout, breaking one promise, letting one thing slide isn't a big deal. But here's the law. How you do one thing is how you do everything. You think you can be sloppy in private and sharp in public. You think you can betray your word at night, but be trustworthy during the day. Discipline doesn't work like that. Respect doesn't work like that. Greatness doesn't work like that. Every moment you show up when no one's watching, you reinforce the man you're becoming. Every time you choose the hard way over the easy escape, you're casting a vote for who you are. When you half-ass a rep, you're not just losing strength, you're losing integrity. When you scroll instead of study, you're not just wasting time. You're teaching your brain to run from depth. When you say just this once, you're not just slipping, you're surrendering. You want to know who a man is? Watch him when no one's watching. Does he finish what he starts? Does he clean the dish? Does he show up to the gym when he's tired? Does he keep the promise he made to himself? Because that's where character is built. Not in the grand moments, not in the highlight reel, but in the mundane, the repetition, the lonely hours. And when those small choices become consistent, they compound into a man who is dependable, accountable, unshakable. So start small, but start seriously. Make your bed with precision, show up on time, train with intensity, speak with clarity, live like your name means something, because everything matters. And the boy ignores the details, but the man sharpens them until he becomes the weapon. There comes a moment when the excuses expire, when the lies you tell yourself stop working, when the boy inside you, the soft one, the scared one, the one who runs, has to die. You've protected him long enough. You've coddled him. You've blamed your past for him. You've made space for his weakness and called it self-care. But now he's the one holding you back. Not your parents, not your environment, not your circumstances. Him, the boy who scrolls when he should study, the boy who runs when it gets hard, the boy who seeks comfort instead of confrontation. You know him because he's loud in your head. He speaks every time you try to level up. He whispers, take it easy, rest tomorrow, just this once. He's the version of you that fears change more than failure, that wants praise without pain, that wants power without price. And here's the truth, he has to burn. You don't outgrow him, you don't heal him, you kill him with discipline. You kill him by waking up early, by shutting up and doing the reps, by sitting in silence instead of chasing stimulation, by holding your tongue when you want to lash out, by moving with intent when you feel lazy. You kill him every time you choose to lead instead of follow. Every time you do what you said you would, especially when it's hard. And in the ashes of that boy, a man begins to form. Not instantly, not all at once, but piece by piece, through the pain of daily choice. That man is silent, not because he's afraid, but because he's locked in. He's cold, not because he doesn't feel, but because he controls it. He is respected because he respects himself. He doesn't chase because he's already moving. He doesn't explain because his presence is proof. And when you finally meet him, the man who built himself from ruin, who forged strength from discipline and character from suffering, you will not regret the boy you buried. You will thank yourself for lighting the match. There are two types of men in this world: the ones who avoid the mountain and the ones who run toward it. The mountain is pain, it's responsibility, it's rejection, failure, the long climb when no one's watching. The boy avoids it. He looks up and says, "It's too high. It's not fair. Why me?" And so he walks the valley, flat, easy, comfortable, but empty. The man, he looks up at that same mountain and says, "Good," because he knows the weight of the climb is what makes him real. He doesn't ask for a lighter burden, he trains for a stronger back. He doesn't resent the struggle, he sees it as the only way to become worthy of his vision. You want to build a life that means something? Then don't avoid the mountain. Choose it. Climb with blistered hands, with broken sleep, with quiet mornings and lonely nights, because in every step you shed the boy who wanted applause. You shed the addict who needed ease. You shed the coward who ran when it got steep, and something deeper begins to awaken. Not hype, not ego, but fire, quiet, cold, clean. Fire. You become the man who doesn't need external validation. You know who you are because you earned it. You know what you're capable of because you bled for it. And no one can take that from you. Not because they won't try, but because you've already conquered the mountain within. The mountain is discipline. The mountain is delayed gratification. The mountain is isolation, failure, humility, over and over and over again. And when you get to the top, there's no parade, no claps, just silence. But in that silence, you hear something for the first time. Peace. Not the peace that comes from avoiding struggle, but the peace that comes from knowing you faced it, you endured it, you became something because of it. This is what separates boys from men. Not age, not money, not muscles, but the decision to suffer on purpose. You want to be proud of the man you see in the mirror. Then stop running from the climb. Get back to the mountain. It's waiting. Here it is, the part no one sees. The part no one claps for. The part that builds the man, not the gym. Not the grind montages, not the victory speeches, but the silence. The long nights with no reassurance. The early mornings where no one texts keep going. The internal war that no one else knows about, but you fight anyway. This is the final test. Can you suffer in silence and stay locked in? Can you keep showing up without applause? Can you keep holding the line when there's no one to impress? That's when the weak version of you shows up again. Whispers in your ear, "This isn't worth it. No one cares. Just take a break." That's the boy. That's the old identity, fighting to survive. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake his voice for your own. But you've come too far to listen now, because something in you has changed. Something cold, something clear has taken root. You're no longer looking for comfort, you're hunting clarity. You're no longer obsessed with how you feel. You're obsessed with what you're becoming. And it's in this silence, this space where no one's watching, that your next level is forged. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because that's where real strength lives. Not in hype, not in crowds, but in the man who wakes up stares into the dark and says, "Let's go again." No complaints, no announcements, no shortcuts, just him and the work. And when the world finally notices, when they say, "You changed," you won't explain. You won't post about it. You won't need to, because the man you became was built when no one was watching. This is your final test. Not to prove it to them, but to prove it to you. So sit in the silence. Feel the pressure. Let it mold you, and when it gets unbearable, don't escape it. Use it. Use it to bury the boy, once and for all. Because when the world tries to make you doubt, you'll already know the truth. You didn't just talk about transformation. You lived it in silence, in sweat, in suffering. And you came out the other side a man you respect.